You're always the most negative person on earth and you never shut up about it. I'm sick of hearing your mouth. Welcome to Hello PhD, a podcast for scientists and the people who love them. This week, we help a listener deal with a grouchy postdoc whose beaker is always half empty. Stay with us.
And we're back. This is Hello PhD, episode 73. I'm Joshua Hall.
And I'm Daniel Arneman.
And we'll discuss the human side of science and life in the lab. Hey there, Dan.
We're back again.
We are back. I'm fresh off of a very brief vacation.
I follow your Twitter feed. I know exactly what you're up to at all times.
Yeah, I went to the beach this week. Well, I went to the beach for about 30 hours.
That's enough, probably, to get a sunburn.
Yeah, it was not bad. I will revisit the beach theme momentarily, though. Dan, I was at Virginia Commonwealth University at the end of last week for a career symposium, and I got to meet a couple of our listeners. I enjoyed talking to everyone there about finding the right career for you.
We're a big hit at VCU, are we?
Well, it was just cool. I just finished up lunch, and a couple grad students there came up and were listeners of the show. So it was really fun to meet and talk to them.
Hello to all of our friends and listeners at VCU. It's good to know you.
Yeah, let's talk about this beer we're drinking.
Ethanol. What did you pick out?
So we're doing something totally different. Lots of firsts since we're having our moratorium against IPAs until summer.
We are having moratorium on the show, not in my life.
No, that's true. I've drank plenty of IPAs outside of the show. But this week we're doing something different. This is from Sierra Nevada. This is the Otreves Ghost Style Ale.
I don't know what that is. I didn't understand very many of those words.
All right, well, let me break it down, Dan. Are you familiar with a ghost?
No, I have not heard of it.
All right, so what this is the brief way you could describe it is a sour beer.
Oh, I like sour beers. Good.
Yeah, so these originated from Goslar, Germany. Typically, these had a salty flavor due to the high salinity of the River Ghost, although I'm pretty sure this one was brewed either in Colorado or North Carolina. So, and likely the original Ghost ales did not have cactus or grapefruit.
And this does, I take it?
It does.
Do they actually add salt to this? Because I'm picking up, I mean, there's certainly a sour flavor, and sometimes if you have something really sour, it can also taste a little salty. But I can't tell that it's actually salty.
Yeah, I'm not sure that... I know the traditional Ghost ales had the salt. I don't know that this one has salt. This does not taste particularly salty to me. Yeah, so these are typically brewed with 50 to 60% malted wheat, and usually they are unfiltered, which gives them that cloudy color. This one doesn't look all that cloudy to me.
Unfiltered, like this podcast? everything we say goes to tape.
That's exactly right. NC 13. That's
something
probably
like that,
yeah.
Still keep our clean rating on iTunes.
But the characteristic that these are most known for is a low bitterness and a tang, kind of a sourness.
It's definitely sour. I couldn't place grapefruit in there, but it's definitely sour. And I like a sour beer. I think it's a refreshing summertime beer.
Yeah, it is.
You don't look like you're a fan, though.
You know, I keep wanting to like these. These are getting more and more popular.
Yeah, this is part of your hipster cred. You gotta enjoy a really sour beer.
It really is. I think where the IPAs were really all the rage, probably 5 years ago.
So mainstream now.
Now you're seeing more and more of these sour beers popping up on the taps, and I don't know. I just don't think it's for me.
What's next? What's out? We did bitter. That was the cool thing, and now we're doing sour. It's really going to be like salty beers next, and then maybe just umami beers.
Oh, maybe so. I don't know that I've had a salty beer. But one thing I thought was interesting about this is often these ghost ales will use ground coriander seed. Are you getting any coriander?
I have not gotten any coriander.
Yeah, I don't know if I would.
Okay.
But I don't think I get any of that.
We'll nurse this and see how the rest of the night goes.
High praise. All right, Dan. Are you ready for some science in the news?
I'm ready.
Okay, so science in the news this week is going to tie into my beach trip I just got back from.
Okay.
And also, we're going to build upon our science in the news from the last episode.
Oh, no. We did get some feedback about the
People,
last science in the news.
People enjoyed the physics of defecation.
It's changing lives around the world, clearly.
I think so. Around the water coolers worldwide,
I'm a little worried to hear you say that you were going to try to tie that into something else.
Actually, Dan, do you mind hanging on for 12 seconds?
Stop it.
All right, Dan. So when I was at the beach, one thing that I enjoy besides, enjoying time on the beach is the pool.
The pool at the beach?
Well, my kids love the pool at the hotel. So
they don't go to the actual ocean.
Well, they like the ocean, but they also like the pool. Do your kids like to swim in the pool?
Yeah, I love it.
Well, turns out in a release by the CDC this week, they wanted us to know that outbreaks of cryptosporidium, also known as crypto, have doubled since 2014.
Okay, and this is a doubling. Like there were 2 cases, now there are 4, so I don't need to worry about it?
Well, I'll get into that. So you might not think that fecal matter is very common in the pool water.
I hope it's not well. Okay, yeah. I didn't think about it before at all, so now that you say that, I'm starting to get worried.
Well, so the CDC did a study back in 2013, and they discovered that 58% of public pools that they tested ended up being positive for fecal bacteria, most commonly E. coli.
Okay, and that means that... Just
Are you surprised?
People didn't shower off, or it means somebody's floating things in the pool?
Well, it could be either. It certainly could be from contamination on the skin.
How do we get on this subject again? Like, too soon.
It's pool season.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
summer.
That doesn't explain last week's Science in the News. It's not poop season.
Well, I wasn't going to mention this, but turns out there was a Canadian study that suggested large public pools have an average of about 75 liters of urine also.
Oh, okay. We're not going to the pool this year, kids.
But it turns out you shouldn't be too worried about all this E. coli in the pool. They actually didn't find things like the O157H7. But the real problem can be this cryptosporidium, this parasite also known as crypto. And crypto it's a common cause of diarrheal illness and outbreaks that are typically linked to swimming pools or other public places where people play in the water. The reason is because it's not easily killed by chlorine, and actually in properly treated water, it can survive up to 10 days. If you swallow just a mouthful of water that's contaminated with crypto, it can make otherwise healthy people sick for up to 3 weeks with watery diarrhea, stomach cramps, nausea, vomiting, and obviously that could all lead to dehydration.
Does sunshine kill it? Because pools are outside and UV light. Anything? Nothing?
I don't think so. But I think that was sort of what gave me a little pause, the fact that even if a pool is upkept properly, this cryptosporidium can survive up to 10 days. And part of that is due to its life cycle. So this parasite actually forms this thick-walled oocyst, sort of like a spore. And upon exiting a host from diarrhea...
Yeah, we understood. Stick to the euphemism, please.
This can end up in the water where it can survive, as we mentioned, for quite a long period of time. And then the other problem...
Can I just do a public service announcement? If you have diarrhea, do not go swimming.
Well, the CDC agrees with you, as we'll say in just a minute. But the other problem, its long survival time in chlorinated water also does not pair well with the fact that a very small exposure ingested can also cause disease. And so the reason I wanted to mention this now, Dan, even though I would have ideally liked to leave a little space in between our fecal matter subject Science in the News, was that Healthy and Safe Swimming Week began on May 22nd. So we're right in the thick of Safe Swimming Week.
Well, you're doing God's work, Josh. Thank you so much.
So CDC is encouraging swimmers to help protect themselves, their family, their friends from cryptosporidium and other waterborne pathogens in the pool. And so they have some recommendations that swimmers can take, including yourself and your kids, to prevent infections while swimming.
You going to tell us what they are?
I am.
Oh,
all right.
good.
So especially if you have parents of young children, which you do.
That's me.
And I do. You can take the following steps. One, it's very important to keep feces out of the water.
No.
I'm reading these
Are
verbatim.
you
too.
sure? What if it's just a little?
So number 2 is do not swim when you have diarrhea.
I feel like I just said that.
You did, Dan. You could have written these. All right. Also, take a rinse shower before you get back into the water.
Seems like a good idea.
Yeah, but do you think? I mean, do you
No,
really
it doesn't.
think?
No.
So you're saying you get in the pool.
You rinse off the chlorine when you get out of the water, but nobody takes a shower before they get in.
No. Shower with soap before you start swimming.
Not going to happen.
Nope. Take a bathroom break every 60 minutes.
Outside of the pool, I assume. Is what I mean. Not just like while you're swimming. Your alarm goes off.
Oh, my God.
Oh, everybody's clicking the unsubscribe button. I'm so sorry.
Our goal the last 2 weeks, see how many listeners we can get rid of.
Okay, move on. This is a real announcement for health reasons.
This is from the CDC. This is Healthy Swim Week, okay? So
we're adults. We're mature.
Wash your hands with soap after using the toilet or changing diapers.
Great.
That's key. Did you know actually I'm diaper free for like the last 3 years?
You personally? I'm proud of you, Josh.
My children.
Big boy.
I don't know if this is something that we can do. Check the chlorine level and pH before getting into the water.
You just told me chlorine didn't do anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess if it's a sub, I don't know. So bring your chlorine level strips with you to the pool. And your pH strips.
If your eyes don't turn red and your hair doesn't lighten.
Oh, actually, enough. I'm sorry. I should have read ahead. They tell us most superstores, hardware stores, and pool supply stores sell pool test strips. So
you're going to be the most annoying parent on earth if you show up with your own pool test strips at the public pool.
All of you go to Amazon.com and purchase some pool test strips. We'll put that in the show notes. If you click through our Amazon link, we'll get a kickback to support the show. And you can maintain your intestinal safety this swimming season.
Josh, thank you so much for that valuable information.
There is actually one last one, and this is important. Do not swallow the water you swim in.
I quit. I'm out of here.
Anyway, this is what the CDC had to say for some safe swimming.
Also, the CDC added, don't eat lead and try not to walk into traffic.
Well, we will post a link in the show notes. There's a website. It's cdc.gov/healthywater/swimming if you want more information on healthy and safe swimming steps.
Thank you, Josh, for the obvious science in the news.
Well, so if maybe for us doing our part here on Healthy Swimming Week, if you come down with a stomach illness this summer, think about if you've been to the public pool and maybe consult your doctor and let them know. Because CDC is trying to track this. So
yeah, if you've been drinking your bath water, don't tell anybody.
Constant vigilance.
Happy Pool Safety Week or whatever it is.
All right, Dan, we got an email this week that we wanted to talk about on the show because I think it's a topic that maybe some other people could relate to and learn from.
Pretty timely. So the email begins, "Greetings, Josh and Dan. I'm currently finishing up an almost 2-year lab tech position in a neuroscience lab before going to graduate school. Your podcast has been tremendously helpful and uplifting for someone in my position. It actually helped me pick the grad school that was right for me. I chose to go for the school that had the PIs who I could see being the best mentors, instead of the high-powered labs, and made sure to talk to as many students as possible. I feel that even though I can't predict everything that can and probably will go wrong in grad school, I can tune into your podcast to know how many people are going through similar things. So thank you."
Well, that's cool. First of all, congrats going to grad school.
Yeah, and picking a lab that might actually help you succeed and be happy.
That's cool that this person listened to our advice. Hopefully we didn't screw up.
Yeah, call back in a few years and let us know.
That was a terrible decision.
These high-powered labs were the way to go. I should have picked somebody who was a terrible mentor. I think we're going to be safe, Josh. Don't worry about it.
I think so. All right, so what's the question?
Okay, so here's the question. There's a postdoc in my lab who is tangentially involved in the project that I'm working on. This postdoc has extremely negative views regarding the project. This negative view spans from the amount of time it takes to train animals on this task to the variable results we get with each animal, etc. While I agree about some of the points that the postdoc is making and that always have room for improvement, it's hard for me not to get down about this project. I'm the one directly training the animals and obtaining the results. Given that the training takes 6 days a week and at least 4 hours each day, I'm trying to remain positive and not think that I've wasted all of this time. My PI and the postdoc whose project this is remain positive and encouraging. However, the tangentially involved postdoc is someone who I interact more frequently with. So, this is a long-winded way of asking, how does one remain positive regarding their own project while still showing respect to other people's views regarding the project? And is it appropriate for people to comment negatively on other people's projects? And this is signed Amygdala for anonymity.
All right, so Amygdala's a lab tech, getting ready to go to grad school. That's awesome. You're going to need Hello PhD for a while, so that's good for us.
We'll be here.
So there's a postdoc in her lab that she interacts with regularly but isn't directly involved with her project, who seems really down on the project for some reason.
Yeah, there's something about it that just rubs this postdoc the wrong way, and apparently the postdoc feels the need to talk about it all the time.
Yeah, so I think maybe we should talk a little bit about that in just a few minutes. But however, the PI and the postdoc who seems to be directly working with Amygdala on this project seems to be pretty positive. So what's going on here? I mean, I guess the first thing that comes to mind to me is really wondering why this postdoc, maybe we'll call Negative Nancy, cares so much.
Yeah, my first thought was, is this did this project get taken away from the postdoc, or is the Negative Nancy jealous of somebody else's project? I mean, your mind reels, and we don't know the situation at all, but it'd be interesting to find out if Amygdala can ask some very gentle but probing questions about why it is, what's behind this. Is it just that the negative postdoc is looking at this and saying, I want to help you, and I don't want to see you fail, or is it just dump on the project week?
Yeah, I'm trying to think through this. What kind of situation would there be such that a postdoc in a lab who's not related directly, has really no skin in the game on this project, would feel so strongly about it to regularly really diss it to the person who's actually doing the project?
Well, there's clearly a big investment here. So it's taking 6 days a week, 4 hours a day to train an animal. So this is not like, I'm going to run this experiment and I'll know by Tuesday. This is a long-term project, and it's a lot of Amygdala's time. So perhaps the postdoc is looking out for Amygdala's time?
It could be. It sounds like maybe they're friends, maybe they're close, because it sounds like they interact quite a bit, even though they're not on the same project.
But it's clear that this is unwelcome criticism. This is, Amygdala writes in because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point that it's not just friendly banter. We all complain a little bit about our projects.
Little gallows humor, like, this PCR is going to fail again. Ha, ha, ha.
How's your crappy project going? Ha,
Yeah.
ha, ha. I think a couple of things I wish I knew were what the relationship between the tangential postdoc and the PI, what their relationship is like. And then also I'd be curious to know what the relationship between the two postdocs in question, the postdoc who is directly related to this project and the Negative Nancy postdoc.
You know what that means, Josh?
What's that?
We're going to have to do a stakeout. Old style, where we sit in the car across the street and eat hamburgers.
We could dress up like one of those reps that comes around.
Yeah, with the little wheelie cart.
With a little wheelie cart.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
If you see us in your building, just stay quiet about it.
Yeah, stay quiet. All right, well, considering the fact that there's no way we can get the answer to those questions.
I just told you a way.
Okay.
No way that we are actually going to get the answers, yeah.
That's right. No way that will not risk us getting thrown in jail. Then, there are two pieces of advice that I have, and you can pick. One is probably a far superior piece of advice than the other, but I'll go ahead and lay them both out. First of all, it sounds like you're leaving the lab soon. So you've completed this 2-year technician position, and you're getting ready to go to grad school. Presumably that's certainly in a different lab, probably at a different institution. So grad school starts in August. So at the most, you're going to be in this lab for another couple of months. Maybe it's not worth rocking the boat.
Yep. Put your headphones in and keep trucking.
Yeah. So that's one piece of advice. Is that what you do, Dan?
I don't know. I can't tell how, I think it really depends on what this postdoc's motivation is, but I could certainly see that if it's a limited time and you know how much time is going to be, just avoid the person, put your headphones in, and get it done.
Yeah, and I will say this too, Dan. I have given that advice to students who are about to leave a lab.
Yeah, there's a time period that makes sense. If it's not worth trying to come to terms with it, then just get done and get out.
Yeah. Although I will say, you still have a good 2 months at least left in the lab. But let's also let's pretend like this was a situation where you're going to work with this person for a more extended period of time, or maybe this is just a friend of yours and now it's starting to sour the friendship and you don't want that to happen.
Okay, so that was the easy answer. Here comes the grown-up answer.
Yeah, here's probably the better answer. And this is going to be tough, but this is advice I give to students all the time because typically I think it's the best, and that is honesty. Negative Nancy, tangential postdoc, may want to run his or her own lab one day. So they might not realize how their words are actually impacting you personally and professionally. And even if their desired career is not to run a research team, they're a friend of yours, I feel fairly confident that their goal is not to make you feel bad. Wouldn't you say that's probably true?
Well, I doubt that it's intentional to make somebody feel bad, but there are certainly people that part of their worldview to just dump on somebody else's risks and rewards and success.
No, that could be true. But I think what's important is that you be very honest and open with this postdoc about how the negativity is impacting you directly. And I know that's not necessarily easy to do, and I know that gets even harder to do as there's more of a power differential, a position differential within the lab. You're a technician, but you've been in the lab for a couple of years. You're not a brand new person. We don't know how long this postdoc has been around, but I think it's very important to advocate for yourself and be open about how other people's words are impacting you.
Yeah, this is a great place for what we call the I statement, right? If you go in guns blazing and say, you're always the most negative person on earth and you never shut up about it and I'm sick of hearing your mouth, go on and on. You can guarantee that is not going to be effective for getting what you want. But I think there's the kind of soft approach, which is exactly what Josh said. Tell them how it's affecting you. So, thank you for warning me about the project, but I've talked with the PI and this other postdoc. We've decided we're going to move forward. And you could either just stop it there, like, can we just talk about something else? Or say, go further and say what you said to us, which is, when you are constantly telling me that this is going to fail, it, demoralizes me. It makes me not want to do the experiments, and I've already committed to doing it. So, if you feel this way, please keep it to yourself or talk to the PI because I'm on this path now. So anyway, whatever it is, hopefully it can change the subject in one case or just shut down that mode of talking. And it's not you attacking, it's you saying, look, this thing you're doing is affecting me, and you make the decision about what you're going to do about it.
Yeah, on one hand, this is such a fundamental communication principle that's important not just in this situation, but in a lot of different situations. But it's so hard to do. When you do this, I feel this way, right? And again, it's not, like you said, Dan, it's not an attacking thing. It's not a bringing somebody else down. It's saying, hey, you know what the reality is? I'm working really hard on this project. I'm putting in lots of hours. I think there are some positives. The PI thinks so. I'm working hard with this other postdoc. But when you say these negative things, it makes me feel like this project sucks. And actually, sometimes it makes me, it impacts me as a scientist. And as you clearly know, I want to go on to graduate school and progress in my career as a scientist. So I appreciate your feedback and desire to help me, but the way you're doing it now is really having negative consequences for me personally. And you know what? My guess is that this person, one, this will be eye-opening that, their words have made you feel this way. Because I bet it really is not about you, but it's about something with the postdoc, his or herself, their project, the relationship with a PI, the relationship with someone else, or just their own feelings about science. We know, being a postdoc can be a very stressful time, and a lot of postdocs are very disgruntled about a lot of different things, and sometimes for good reason. But my hypothesis would be, if you're really open about how the postdoc's words are making you feel, he or she will probably do a complete 180 and probably apologize for making you feel that way and share that was not his or her intent.
Yeah, you could flip it on its head, and instead of saying how it's impacting you, you could turn this into a little research project into the postdoc, turn on full active listening mode and be like, you really think this is a bad project, don't you? And the postdoc says, yeah, it's terrible. So-and-so always comes up with stupid projects. Oh, you've noticed in the past that the PI doesn't come up with a good project. Yeah, it's the worst, never does any research on the background. So anyway, you could turn it around and merely mirror back the statements that the postdoc is making and find out if you can get a little deeper on what is causing it. But you don't owe that to that person.
That's not bad advice. And, as we're talking about this, we're talking about option 2, which is the tougher but probably more grown-up thing to do. One advantage for doing it this way, for dealing with this dealing with this situation in this way is even though you are leaving the lab soon, the likelihood of you encountering other situations in future labs while in graduate school or as a postdoc yourself that are challenging, the likelihood of that happening is pretty high. And so you could almost think of it as, okay, this is going to be a good practice run for me learning to deal with challenging situations and challenging people.
Absolutely. So, Josh, do you have some more advice, or can I give my last thought?
Well, I think the last thing I want to say, Dan, is in general, regardless of what happens, if you have a conversation or you don't have a conversation, don't let this person bring you down, because it sounds like generally you don't think the project totally sucks. So don't let someone else try to convince you as much. Be confident about yourself as a scientist, your own abilities, doing that project, especially someone who isn't involved. You're working really hard on it, which means you obviously care a lot about the science and the work that you're doing. And so as much as you can, focus on that and don't let other people bring you down.
Yeah, and I will add to that, because I think that's just great advice. I think in some of this is it's a risk versus reward. You're putting in a lot of work, and perhaps the outcome is risky. And if you were a postdoc, I might say, ooh, you've got to get papers out, and if this thing fails, you're going to be really up a tree. If you're a grad student, it's maybe even worse, right? You're not going to graduate if you don't get that paper out. But you're a lab tech, you've got a finite endpoint, and if there's the chance of success, then I say keep going with it. And that postdoc may be putting him or herself into your position and saying, well, I could never take on this project. It's too risky. And that's true. But it's not too risky for you. And so I remember, I don't know, Josh, when I was an undergrad, I got handed the project that was the, pipe dream project, because the PI had come up with it while he was out with his friends, drinking ethanol probably. And it was easy to hand to a to an undergrad, because if it doesn't work, no big deal. And it ended up sort of working, but sort of not. I'm sure they built on it since then. But I was the perfect person to take on that high-risk project.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, that might be worth a conversation with your PI or the postdoc that you're working with is, it sounds like some of the criticism that the tangential postdoc has might be valid. So maybe you can kind of sift through that and not be just totally down on the project, but maybe raise some of those concerns with the PI. Maybe it'll be a learning opportunity. You can find out what Dan said, yeah, this is a risky project, but if it turns out a certain way, there's a lot of promise there. And we thought you'd be a great person to do this because you're leaving soon to go to grad school. Who knows?
Get your name on a third author paper in a good journal, right?
It's the stuff dreams are made of.
Yeah.
All right, Amygdala. Well, thank you so much for writing in. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to follow up and let us know how it goes, especially if you decide to have that conversation. We would love to get a recap on how it went.
Yeah, please let us know how it turns out and which brand of noise-canceling headphones you purchased to make it work.
And if you never hear us talk about this on the show again, you can assume that it blew up in Amygdala's face and we decided not to talk about it again.
There you have it.
All right, Dan. What kind of word puzzle do we have for this week?
All right, the clue last week. Creatures in this phylum have a painful sting, like falling into a patch of nettles. How is your list of phyla going, Josh?
Dan, every time you do one of these puzzles that requires me to pull out some sort of Latin name of a species or a phylum, I'm not going to get it.
Not going to do it. I mean, you were at the beach. This could have really affected your life. The answer this week, Josh, was Cnidaria. This is the phylum that includes jellyfish and coral and sea anemones. You ever been stung by a jellyfish?
I have, Dan.
How's that feel?
Not good. Like a bee sting, but underwater.
And a lot, right?
Yeah, it was not great. I actually saw some jellyfish and some sea anemones on my beach trip. We went to the North Carolina Aquarium, so that was cool.
Exciting. So it is related. I have not been stung by a jellyfish, thankfully, but I was at our local food co-op, and they have the plants outside this time of year. They've got lavender and rosemary and whatever. And I saw one I didn't recognize, so I reached down to look at the label, and I pulled my hand away, and it was like I had been stung 3 or 4 times on my hand. And I thought, there must be bees in it. No, it was a stinging nettle plant.
It was just sitting there outside
so it was sitting there.
Rosemary.
And I had like 3 or 4 welts on my hands and it burned for half an hour, like I had been stung. So there's this plant out there, nettle, that is awful to touch, and I think you can eat it if you boil it a lot. The reason I'm bringing this up, Josh, is because the word Nidaria comes from the Greek Nidaria comes from the Greek nide, which means nettle. And it comes from a stem, which means to scratch or scrape. So our winner this week was Artemis. Artemis writes, I enjoy your podcast and etymology puzzle. The answer is Nidaria. It comes from, and then a string of Greek letters, and it says, thanks, Artemis. P.S. I'm Greek. So I thought that was pretty appropriate that Artemis actually sent me the answer in Greek.
And is Greek.
That's
pretty cool.
We will be sending you your Amazon gift card. Congratulations. And your puzzle for next week, Josh, if you are prepared, it's kind of a scary one.
Ooh, I'm ready.
In your nightmares, a little girl's doll bursts with these writhing, undeveloped insects.
Jeez, Dan.
I know.
That is scary.
It's pretty terrifying. I should have saved it
I'm
for
going to have
Halloween.
nightmares about that.
Okay, I'll read it one more time. In your nightmares,
No, don't.
a little girl's doll bursts with these writhing, undeveloped insects. Remember, I'm looking for a scientific word described by the clue, and once you get it, you'll find the literal meaning of that science word as a phrase in the clue itself. If you think you know the answer, email it to puzzle@hellophd.com. We'll randomly select a winner from all the correct responses and send the lucky puzzler an Amazon gift card.
Fantastic, man. Well, this has been a great show. I always love to answer listener questions. And if you're a listener and have something you'd like for us to talk about on the show, we would love to do it. Just email us podcast@hellophd.com or tweet at us @hellophd, or you can contact us on our Facebook page.
And as always, feel free to go to our website, click through the Patreon link, or go to patreon.com/hellophd, and you can become a supporter of the show.
And we would love you for it. It would enable us to buy more sour beers, or probably not, really.
Cactus Groses?
You know, I will say this is growing on me a little bit more as the show has gone on.
That's probably because you've had a little more of it.
Let's be honest, I haven't drank that much.
Not so much. We'll try again next week. Please be back with us.
All right, we'll see you next time, Dan.